Hello again. It's me, Victoria Pendragon, and this is my alternate reality, and yes, I'm wearing the same clothes I was wearing in the last video. That's because I'm recording these two on the same day, because this one goes back to that day and connects to it, and I wanted to stay on a roll. And for anybody who noticed the little white dots jumping around on my arms, I've been painting. That's gesso. And I just didn't feel like changing. So, I wanted to talk today about an experience that was the experience actually that brought me into my teacher for the shamanic journeying, because there was something a little magical going on that day in general, the day that I met her. I had been recommended by my shiatsu practitioner, a woman by the name of Ellen Gaida, who has a wonderful method of her own working with people that she calls body word. She's a remarkable human being. And I was led by her to some people who were holding a sweat lodge. She said that she thought it might be of benefit to me. And since I valued her opinion highly, I determined to go. I didn't know anyone there. And my then husband was not at all interested in going, but was willing to drive me there, as I couldn't drive myself at the time, and drop me off. So I was told I needed to bring a bathing suit because it was going to be a mixed sweat lodge. I brought one with me. I weighed, I think, 90 pounds at the time. I had lost 30-some pounds. And so the bathing suit hung on me like a bag, but I had it. And the day itself was overcast in the beginning and ultimately rainy. So that when I got to the sweat lodge, the ground was quite muddy where they'd been building. I mean, they had built up a fire inside, and the ground was soft and wet and mushy, and it was different. Nothing I'd ever done before, nothing I was used to, and messy. I was able to get into the lodge with some difficulty. I didn't bend, and the entrance to the sweat lodge was down here. So I had to kind of creep down and be helped in by people, because I didn't bend much well at all. But they got me in. And as we sat there in the dark, pitch dark, you really could not see another person in there. We were packed in like sardines in a can. And they went around from person to person to person after they had honored the ancestors, and asked us to just tell a little bit about why we were there that day. So I very briefly said I was there, I was dying, I was about to enter into this, at some point, experimental program I didn't know anything about, and that didn't go into too much detail, and left it at that. If you've ever been in a sweat lodge, you know how hot it can get. It was really something, and of course in my compromised physical health, it was affecting me profoundly. So when the time came for the sweat lodge to be over, they had to help me in. They literally had to drag me out. I could not move, except to kind of lean this way or that. So they took me by the shoulders and dragged me out. Now by this time, everything was quite warm and quite wet. And when they pulled me from that lodge into the sunlight, seriously, it was like being born. It was so cool. And I couldn't move, so they dragged me up the slight incline and let me lie on the wet grass. The rain was just stopping, the sun was coming out, so it was very pleasant. And I lay there until I felt like I could move again, got some help getting up, and then went inside, toweled off, got rid of my bathing suit, put my dry clothes on. Very nicely, the woman of the house had put all the clothes into the dryer to make them warm for people. Well, that, and they'd gotten a little wet from, we had danced around previously in the rain. And so it felt just so cozy, but I was still way tranced out from the experience. So I just wandered into the living room and sat in this chair with high arms on it like this. And I just sat there, zoned. I could hear that there were people talking around me. My daughter had been present that day. She hadn't done the sweat lodge, but she was there too among the people. I had really no conscious connection to anything that was going on around me, though. And the oddest thing happened. I was sitting there with my arms on the chair, and a fly flew down and landed on my little finger, on the left hand. My hands were just like this then, but they didn't move. And the fly, I think had I been awake, like most people, I would have shushed it away. But because I was in a trance, I was rather more mystified and just watched it. And it walked, I'm not sure I can show you this well, it went down around my fingers, one at a time. Let me see if I can, like this, and so, and to the thumb, very slowly, just walking, and I was just amazed and watched it. And then it flew over to this hand and did the same thing, but from the thumb to the little finger, and went back that way, and then just sat for a little while, and ultimately flew off. And I thought to myself, how strange. Never experienced anything like it before, never have since. It was just truly odd. So in a little while, when I came out of that state, I thought, well, I'd best get up and walk around a bit, kind of ground myself. And I was walking out of the room, turning the corner left, when I ran into Deborah, who's the person I spoke about in the last episode of this. And so when she approached me about this power animal thing, I, having just had an experience with an animal, an insect, that was out of the ordinary, shall we say, I was primed for her invitation. And as I think of it, and truly, I'm a little slow. I've never thought of this before, but as I mentioned in the last one, there were a lot of insects present, because when I dove into the earth as a child, there were a lot of insects with their glowing colors, like rainbow colors around them always. And I just now realized that was an insect that brought me open to this. So sometimes it takes me a while to catch on to these things. Sometimes not. I like to say that I'm slow, but not stupid. So, this is nice. I just wanted to tell you that little story because it was an unusual day. Very worldly events, most of them in the beginning. Everything very grounded, very this-dimensional. And then, without any kind of announcement, or without it being, I mean, a lot of people will get visits, I've had them myself, from, exotic beings, angelic beings, beings of light. But I was visited very much in person by a fly. And it was a very other dimensional thing somehow. The fly behaving in a way that flies do not generally behave. I think if you are open to simply experiencing, things happen to you. If you close down your mind and don't see or won't see, perhaps because of fear, perhaps because you've been told that those things only happen to crazy people or whatever, I think you close down your mind to these possibilities for connections that don't happen every day, but do happen sometimes and are precious, 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 precious. So, if you have an open mind, give thanks. The best thing you'll have. to help you get through life. And if you don't, consider considering it. Just a thought. Okay, take care.